The hospital corridor smelled like bleach and fear. I was running past nurses who jumped out of my way, my sneakers squeaking against the waxed floor. Room 237. That's all I could think about. Room 237, where my 7-year-old son was fighting for his life. "Mrs. Fletcher!" A nurse tried to stop me, but I pushed past her. Nothing was going to keep me from Colby. When I burst through the door, my whole world tilted. There he was, my baby boy, looking so small in that huge hospital bed. Tubes ran from his tiny arms to beeping machines. His face was pale as paper, his dinosaur pajamas from this morning now replaced with a hospital gown that swallowed his little body whole. Dennis was already there, still in his work clothes, concrete dust on his jeans. He grabbed my hand when he saw me. "Vera, thank God you're here," he said, his voice breaking. Dr. Yates, a woman with kind eyes behind thick glasses, stepped forward. "Mrs. Fletcher, I need you to sit down." "I don't want to sit down. I want to know what happened to my son." "Your son has been poisoned," she said, her words hitting me like physical blows. "We found traces of ethylene glycol in his system. That's antifreeze. It's not enough to be immediately fatal, thank goodness, but it's serious. We're treating him now." Poisoned. The word echoed in my head. How could Colby be poisoned? This morning he was showing me his new drawing of a T-Rex. This morning he was laughing at his dad's silly jokes over breakfast. This morning he was perfect and healthy and whole. "When will he wake up?" I asked, moving to his bedside, taking his small hand in mine. It was cold. Too cold. "Soon," Dr. Yates said. "We've administered the antidote. He's responding well." I sat there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, holding Colby's hand, whispering to him about all the things we were going to do when he got better. Dennis paced behind me, making phone calls to work, to the school, trying to piece together what happened. Then, like a miracle, Colby's eyelids fluttered. His fingers tightened around mine. "Colby? Baby, can you hear me?" I leaned closer, my heart hammering. His eyes opened slowly, those beautiful brown eyes he got from his father, but they were filled with something I'd never seen before. Fear. Real, deep fear. "Mom," he whispered, his voice so quiet I had to lean in close. "Mom, it wasn't an accident." "What wasn't an accident, sweetheart?" He looked past me to make sure no one else was close enough to hear. Dennis had stepped out to talk to another doctor. Colby pulled me closer with surprising strength for such a sick little boy. "Grandma gave me the juice," he said, each word clear despite his weakness. "The special juice. She said it would make me strong, but it made me sick instead." The room spun. I felt like I was the one who'd been poisoned now, my stomach turning to lead. "What are you talking about, baby?" "Grandma Judith. Yesterday at her house, she gave me juice that tasted bad and said I had to drink it all. She said it was our secret." Before I could process this impossibility, the door opened. Judith Fletcher walked in, my mother-in-law of 8 years, carrying a teddy bear and wearing her concerned grandmother face. She was dressed perfectly as always, her silver hair styled, her makeup flawless even in crisis. "Oh my goodness, how is he?" she gushed, rushing toward the bed. "I came as soon as Dennis called. I can't believe this happened." Colby's hand tightened on mine so hard it hurt. His monitors started beeping faster. "Get away," he said, his voice stronger now, powered by something beyond his 7 years. "Get away from me!" Judith stopped, her face a mask of shock. "Sweet Pea, what's wrong? It's Grandma. I brought you Mr. Buttons." She held up the teddy bear like a peace offering. "You poisoned me," Colby said, loud enough that the nurse at the station looked up. "You put the bad stuff in my juice." Judith laughed, but it was wrong. All wrong. Too high, too forced. Oh my goodness, he must be delirious from the medication. Poor thing. Kids say the silliest things when they're sick, don't they? She looked at me with those cold blue eyes, the ones that had always seemed to look right through me, never at me. "You know how children are, Vera. They get confused. They make things up." Something in her tone made my blood turn to ice. It wasn't concern, it was a warning. "Colby doesn't lie," I said, standing up, putting myself between her and my son. "All children lie," she said, her smile never wavering. "It's part of growing up. He probably ate something at school and doesn't want to get in trouble." That's when Colby said the words that changed everything. He pointed one small finger at his dinosaur backpack in the corner, the one he took everywhere, the one with the tablet we'd given him for educational games. "Should I show them the video, Grandma?" he asked, his voice clear as a bell. "The video of you giving me the juice? The video where you told me not to tell Mommy?" The teddy bear hit the floor. Judith's perfect face finally cracked, just for a second, but I saw it. I saw the truth underneath. And in that moment, I realized my son hadn't just been poisoned with antifreeze. He'd been poisoned by someone who was supposed to love him most. 3 months before that horrible day in the hospital, life had a comfortable rhythm that I thought would last forever. Every morning at 6:30, Colby would pad into our bedroom in his dinosaur pajamas, carrying his stuffed triceratops named Spike. Dennis would groan and pull a pillow over his head while Colby climbed between us, chattering about whatever dream he'd had. Those mornings were golden. The three of us tangled together before the day pulled us in different directions. Our house on Maple Street wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Dennis had fixed it up himself, spending weekends replacing windows and refinishing floors. The kitchen walls were covered in Colby's artwork, a gallery of crayon dinosaurs and finger-painted families where everyone had stick arms and huge smiles. I loved that kitchen, loved making breakfast while Dennis read the sports section out loud, and Colby built towers with his cereal pieces. "Mom, did you know that velociraptors were actually only as tall as turkeys?" Colby announced one morning, spilling orange juice in his excitement. "Mrs. Patterson told us yesterday, but they were still dangerous." "Clean up that spill, turkey raptor," Dennis laughed, tossing him a paper towel. My job at Riverside Veterinary Clinic started at 8:30, which gave me just enough time to drop Colby at school first. Dr. Hendricks had hired me 4 years ago when I was desperate for stable work. Being a veterinary assistant wasn't glamorous, but I loved it. The animals didn't judge you. They just needed help, and I could give it to them. "You've got the touch, Vera," Dr. Hendricks always said. "The scared ones trust you." Tuesday afternoons were when Judith entered our weekly routine. She'd retired from First National Bank the previous year after 35 years of telling people why they couldn't have loans. That's how Dennis described it when he was feeling honest about his mother. But when she offered to pick Colby up from school every Tuesday, we couldn't say no. Daycare was expensive, and she was family. "This is what grandmothers do," she'd said, sitting at our kitchen table with her perfect posture. "Besides, someone needs to make sure Colby gets proper snacks. All that processed food at school is terrible for growing minds." Dennis had been thrilled. "This is great, Mom. Right, Vera?" I'd smiled and agreed because that's what you do. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth, especially when that horse is your mother-in-law who already thinks you trapped her son with an unplanned pregnancy. Oh, she never said it directly. Judith Fletcher was too refined for that. But there were comments, little jabs wrapped in concern. When I'd gotten promoted to senior veterinary assistant, she'd said, "That's wonderful, dear. Though I suppose it's still mainly cleaning up messes, isn't it? Dennis, remember when you wanted to be an architect? Before everything changed? Before I got pregnant. Before I ruined her son's dreams. That's what she meant. But Dennis never heard it that way. Mom didn't mean anything by it," he'd say when I'd bring it up later. "She's just from a different generation. She was a career woman herself, remember? She's proud of you." The Tuesday routine had worked smoothly for 2 years. Judith's house was only 10 minutes from Riverside Elementary, a pristine, 2-story colonial she'd kept exactly as it was when Dennis's father was alive. The same plastic covers on the formal living room furniture, the same artificial flower arrangements, the same photos on the mantel where Dennis looked like the golden boy, and I was always slightly out of focus or half hidden behind someone else. Colby loved going there because Judith had things we didn't. Cable TV with all the cartoon channels, a pantry full of expensive organic snacks, a backyard with a perfectly maintained garden where he could hunt for bugs, and the juice boxes. God, those juice boxes. "Grandma's juice is the best," he'd tell me every Tuesday evening when Dennis brought him home. "She gets the special kind that costs more. She says I deserve the best because I'm a Fletcher." A Fletcher. Not my son. A Fletcher. 2 weeks before everything went wrong, I'd noticed Colby was quieter after his Tuesday visits. Not upset exactly, just thoughtful. "Everything okay at Grandma's?" I'd asked, tucking him into bed. Yeah, he'd said, hugging Spike tighter. Grandma just talks a lot sometimes. About what? Grown-up stuff, about how things should be different. He'd yawn then, already drifting off. She says you don't understand our family, but I think you do, Mom. You understand everything. I should have pressed harder. Should have asked more questions, but I was tired from a long day of wrestling with a scared German shepherd who needed stitches, and Dennis was calling me to come watch TV with him. So I'd kissed Colby's forehead and left it alone. That was my mistake, thinking the danger would come from outside our family, not from within it. That Tuesday in October started like any other. Colby had woken up excited because his class was making papier-mâché volcanoes. He'd gotten toothpaste on his dinosaur shirt at breakfast, so I had to help him change while Dennis packed his lunch. The morning was rushed but normal, beautifully normal in a way I'd give anything to have back. At the clinic, I was dealing with back-to-back appointments, a cat with diabetes, a boxer puppy who'd eaten a sock, an elderly beagle with arthritis. My phone was on silent in my locker, which is why I didn't see the first 3 calls from the school. Dr. Hendricks found me in exam room 2, holding down a particularly anxious German shepherd while he examined its ears. Vera, you need to take this call, now. The urgency in his voice made my stomach drop. I apologized to Mrs. Chen and her dog and ran to the break room. The school's number was on the screen. Mrs. Fletcher, this is Principal Morrison. Your son collapsed during art class. He's being transported to Memorial Hospital by ambulance. You need to get there immediately. The drive to the hospital was 20 minutes. That felt like 20 years. I ran 3 red lights. I didn't care. All I could think about was Colby's face at breakfast, laughing at his dad's impression of a pterodactyl. He'd been fine. Completely fine. Dennis met me at the emergency room entrance, still in his work clothes, concrete dust on his steel-toed boots. They won't tell me anything yet. They're running tests. We sat in those horrible plastic chairs for an hour before Dr. Yates appeared. She was young, maybe 35 like me, with kind eyes behind thick glasses. But her expression made my heart stop. Mr. and Mrs. Fletcher, I need to ask you some questions. The blood work shows your son has ethylene glycol in his system. That's antifreeze. The levels aren't immediately life-threatening, but this is serious. We've started treatment with fompizole, which counteracts the poison. Poison? Dennis stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. How the hell did my son get poisoned? That's what we need to determine. Has he been anywhere unusual? Had access to any garage or automotive supplies? No, I said. We don't even have antifreeze at home. We use a different brand of windshield fluid, the safe kind. Dr. Yates made notes on her tablet. What about his routine yesterday? Where was he? School until 3:15, Dennis said slowly. Then my mother picked him up. He was at her house until I got him around 6. We'll need to check everything he consumed in the last 24 hours. Can you contact your mother? Dennis was already pulling out his phone. I heard him talking to Judith, his voice tight but controlled. 20 minutes later, she swept into the emergency room like she owned it, carrying grocery bags. I brought sandwiches, she announced. Hospital food is poison. She stopped, seeming to realize what she'd said. I mean, it's terrible. How's my grandson? They finally let us all see Colby around 4 p.m. He was awake but weak, IV lines running into his small arms. The moment he saw us, tears started rolling down his cheeks. Mommy, my tummy hurts so bad. I know, baby. The doctors are making it better. I smoothed his hair back, feeling his forehead. Too warm. Judith approached the bed with her arms out. Oh, my poor sweet pea. Grandma's here now. Colby's whole body went rigid. He turned his face into my shoulder, his fingers gripping my shirt. It was such a clear rejection that even Dennis noticed. He's just scared, Judith said quickly, but there was something sharp in her voice. Children get so dramatic when they're sick. Don't you, Colby? Remember when you had that cold and thought you were dying? Mom, he's been poisoned, Dennis said. This isn't a cold. Well, I don't understand how this could happen. He was perfectly fine at my house. We did homework, he played in the garden, had his snack, the same routine we always have. She looked directly at me. Maybe he got into something at home this morning. You know how rushed mornings can be. Things get forgotten. Dangerous things get left out. The accusation was subtle but clear. I felt Dennis tense beside me. "We need to check everything," Dr. Yates interrupted. "Mrs. Fletcher, what exactly did Colby eat and drink at your house?" "The usual, crackers, some apple slices, and juice. The organic kind, very expensive. I always give him the best." "Do you still have the juice box?" I threw it away. I'm not in the habit of keeping trash. Her tone suggested, this was another failing of mine, that I probably did keep trash. That night, after Judith left, Colby finally spoke more than a few words. His voice was small but clear. "Mom, she's lying. The juice tasted bad, really bad, but she made me drink it all." After Judith left that evening, something shifted in the hospital room. Colby kept looking at his dinosaur backpack in the corner, then back at me, as if he was working up the courage to say something important. Dennis had stepped out to get coffee and call his foreman about missing tomorrow's work. It was just me and my boy in the dim hospital light. "Mom," Colby whispered, checking the doorway to make sure we were alone, "can you get my backpack? Please?" I retrieved it, the familiar weight of it making my chest tight. Just this morning, he'd been wearing it, bouncing down the hallway to his classroom. Now here we were, in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and fear. "Check the front pocket," he said, his eyes serious in a way that broke my heart. 7-year-olds shouldn't have eyes that serious. Inside the front pocket was his tablet, the little iPad mini we'd gotten him for his birthday. He mostly used it for educational games and watching videos about dinosaurs. I looked at him questioningly. "I recorded, Grandma," he said, the words coming out in a rush. "She says mean things about you when Daddy's not there. Really mean things. I wanted to show Daddy, but then I got sick and forgot." My hands were shaking as I opened his tablet. The password was 1234 because Colby insisted he could remember it. In his Photos app, there were 3 videos. The thumbnails just showed Judith's living room from a low angle. "When did you take these?" "Different Tuesdays. I figured out how to make it record without her knowing. Mr. Rodriguez taught us about documenting things in science class. He said evidence is important." I put in my earbuds and played the first video, dated 3 weeks ago. The angle was low, probably from Colby's lap, but the audio was crystal clear. Judith's voice filled my ears. "Your mother doesn't deserve your father, Colby. She's beneath us. Did you know she grew up in a trailer park? Her father was a drunk. That's not the kind of blood we want in the Fletcher family, but you're half Fletcher, so you can overcome it if you try hard enough." I paused the video, feeling sick. Colby was watching me with those 2 adult eyes. "There's more," he said quietly. The second video was from 2 weeks ago. This time, Judith was in her kitchen making snacks. Her voice was sweeter, but the words were poison. "If something happened to your mother, your father could find a better wife. Someone who understands our values. Someone who didn't trap him with a pregnancy. You were an accident, you know. Your mother got pregnant on purpose to force Dennis to marry her. I told him to get a paternity test, make sure you were even his, but he was too trusting. My son had been sitting there, eating apple slices, while his grandmother filled his head with this venom. The rage building in my chest was unlike anything I'd ever felt. But the third video was the worst. It was from yesterday. Yesterday when someone had poisoned my child. "This juice tastes funny, Grandma," Colby's voice said. "It's a new flavor. Special vitamins to make you strong and smart. Drink it all." My tongue feels weird, kind of tingly. That means it's working. "The vitamins are very expensive, so finish every drop. And Colby, this is our secret. If you tell Mommy, I'll know you don't love me anymore. You do love Grandma, don't you?" "Yes, Grandma." "Then drink it all. Every drop. Good boy." The sound of Colby finishing the juice. Then, "Can I have water? It burns a little." "No water, it will dilute the vitamins. You can have water when your daddy picks you up." I ripped out the earbuds and ran to the bathroom, barely making it before I threw up. She had poisoned him. My mother-in-law had deliberately poisoned my 7-year-old son, and he'd been smart enough, brave enough to record it. When I came back, Dennis was in the room holding 2 cups of coffee. He took one look at my face and set them down. "What's wrong? Is Colby okay?" I handed him the tablet and the earbuds. "You need to watch these, all of them." I watched my husband's face change as he viewed each video. The confusion, then shock, then a rage I'd never seen before. Dennis was a gentle man, slow to anger, always defending his mother. But this was different. This was his child. "I'm calling the police," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Wait." I grabbed his arm. "Let's be smart about this. She'll deny everything. She'll say the videos are fake or taken out of context. We need to do this right." "What do you suggest?" "She's coming back tomorrow morning. She always does. Let's talk to the doctors first, make sure they document everything. Then we call the police and let them handle it properly. We need to make sure she can't hurt Colby or anyone else ever again." Dennis pulled me into his arms, both of us shaking. "How did I not see this? How did I let her near him?" "Because she's your mother. Because we want to believe the best about family." Detective Rivera arrived at 7 the next morning, before visiting hours officially started. She was exactly what we needed: methodical, experienced, and absolutely unwilling to let family politics interfere with attempted murder of a child. She watched all 3 videos twice, took notes, and coached us on how to handle Judith's arrival. "Let her come naturally," Rivera said, positioning herself in the hallway where she could watch but not be seen. "Don't accuse her immediately. Let's see what she says when she doesn't know we have evidence." At 9:45, Judith arrived right on schedule, carrying a gift bag and wearing her church clothes, a navy dress with pearls. She looked like everyone's ideal grandmother, the perfect disguise for a monster. "How's our patient today?" she chirped, breezing into the room. "I brought some of those crackers you like, Colby, the dinosaur-shaped ones." Colby pressed closer to me, his heart monitor betraying his anxiety with faster beeps. Dennis stood up from his chair, placing himself between his mother and our son. "Mom, we need to talk about what happened." "Of course we do," Judith said, setting down her gift bag. "It's just terrible. Have the doctors figured out how this happened? I was thinking about it all night. Maybe someone at school gave him something. You know, there are all sorts of troubled children in public schools these days." "The doctors traced the poisoning to Tuesday afternoon," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Between 3 and 6 p.m. Her face didn't change, not even a flicker. "Well, that's when he was with me, but I can assure you nothing happened at my house. We followed our routine perfectly. Homework, snacks, playtime in the garden, the same as always." "The same as always," Dennis repeated. "Including the juice?" "What about the juice?" Her voice sharpened just slightly. "You gave him juice, the special organic kind." "I always give him quality snacks, unlike what he gets at home." She looked at me when she said it, that familiar dig. "Mom, stop." Dennis's voice was harder than I'd ever heard it. "Just stop. We know what you did." "I have no idea what you're talking about. If you're suggesting I had anything to do with this, you're being ridiculous. I'm his grandmother. I love him more than life itself." That's when Colby spoke up, his small voice cutting through her performance like a knife. "Then why did you make me drink the bad juice, Grandma? Why did you say I couldn't tell Mommy?" Judith's face went white, then red. "You're confused, sweetheart. The medication is making you imagine things. This happens with children. They get confused and make up stories." "I'm not making it up," Colby said, stronger now. "Should I show them the video?" The transformation was instant. The mask of the perfect grandmother shattered completely, her face contorted with rage, and for the first time, I saw who Judith Fletcher really was. "You little brat," she hissed. "You recorded me?" "Mom!" Dennis stepped forward, but she wasn't done. "This is exactly what I'd expect from her son," she spat, pointing at me. "Sneaky, deceptive, just like his mother." Detective Rivera chose that moment to enter the room. "Mrs. Fletcher, I'm going to need you to come with me." "This is insane. You can't arrest me based on the word of a child." "We're not," Rivera said calmly. "We're arresting you based on video evidence. The medical report showing ethylene glycol poisoning and what you just admitted in front of 4 witnesses." "I didn't admit anything. I was trying to help my grandson. If anyone should be arrested, it's her." She pointed at me again. "She's turned my son against me, poisoned my grandson. Against me. She's the poison in this family." "Enough!" Dennis's voice boomed through the room. "You poisoned my son, my 7-year-old son. To what, frame my wife? Get her out of the picture?" Judith's eyes were wild now, all pretense gone. "She was never good enough for you. Never. I was trying to save you from the mistake you made 8 years ago. One little illness, just enough to make her look neglectful, and you'd finally see what kind of mother she really is." "You could have killed him," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "You gave antifreeze to a child. You could have destroyed his kidneys, his brain. You could have killed my baby." "It was a calculated dose. I researched it thoroughly. Just enough to make him sick, not enough to cause permanent damage. I'm not a monster." "Yes," Dennis said quietly, and somehow that was worse than shouting. "You are." Detective Rivera nodded to the officers in the hallway. They came in with handcuffs. As they led Judith away, she turned back one more time. "You'll regret this, Dennis. When she shows her true colors, when she ruins your life, you'll wish you'd listened to your mother." The door closed behind her, and the room fell silent except for the steady beep of Colby's monitors. Dennis collapsed into the chair beside the bed, his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. Colby reached out his small hand and patted his father's arm. "It's okay, Daddy. We're safe now." The trial lasted 3 months. Judith Fletcher, the woman who'd worn pearls to poison her grandson, sat in court looking small and ordinary in her orange jumpsuit. The prosecutor played Colby's videos for the jury. 12 strangers watched my mother-in-law tell my son his mother was trash, that he was an accident, that I'd trapped his father. They watched her coach him to drink poison while calling it vitamins. The defense tried to argue it was a mental breakdown, temporary insanity brought on by the stress of retirement. But the prosecutor had done her homework. Judith's internet history showed 6 weeks of research on antifreeze poisoning, specifically about non-lethal doses in children. She'd visited forums about custody battles, about proving parental neglect. She'd even searched how to frame someone for poisoning before remembering to clear her browser history. But nothing on the internet truly disappears. She got 8 years. With good behavior, she'd be out in 5. Dennis struggled with that reality every single day. "She's my mother," he said one night, 3 weeks after the trial ended. "How did I not see what she was capable of?" "Because children are programmed to love their parents," I told him, holding his hand across our kitchen table. "Just like parents are programmed to protect their children. She broke that sacred rule, not you." Colby recovered completely, at least physically. The doctors called him lucky. Another day, maybe 2, and the damage would have been permanent. His kidneys would have failed. His brain would have been affected. Instead, he got to go back to school after 2 weeks, where he was treated like a hero by his classmates, the boy who caught his grandma doing something bad and recorded it. We moved to Portland, Oregon, where my sister Renata lived. Dennis found work with a construction company that paid better than his old job. I got hired at a veterinary emergency clinic, working with critical cases. Colby started at a new school where nobody knew our story. He joined the science club, influenced by Mr. Rodriguez's lessons about evidence and documentation. But the real healing happened in smaller moments. Dennis started therapy, working through the guilt of not protecting his son from his own mother. I worked through my anger at all the warning signs I'd dismissed. And Colby, brave little Colby, taught us both about resilience. "I knew Grandma was wrong about you, Mom," he told me one evening as I tucked him into bed in our new house. "She kept saying bad things, but I could see they weren't true. You're the best mom. That's why I recorded her. I wanted proof that she was the bad one, not you. You shouldn't have had to do that, baby. No child should have to protect their parent like that." "But I did it," he said proudly, "and now she can't hurt us anymore." The truth about poison is that it comes in many forms. Sometimes it's in a juice box laced with antifreeze. Sometimes it's in words designed to destroy a family from the inside. Sometimes it's in the slow, careful campaign to convince a child that their mother isn't worthy of love. But here's what Judith never understood. Love is the strongest antidote there is. Colby's love for me made him document the truth. Dennis's love for his son helped him choose our family over his mother. And my love for both of them gave me the strength to fight back against someone who thought she could destroy us. 6 months after the trial, we got a letter from Judith in prison. Dennis burned it without reading it. We were done with her poison in all its forms. Last week was Colby's 8th birthday. We had a dinosaur party in our backyard with 15 kids from his new school. He's taller now, growing so fast I can barely keep him in clothes that fit. He still loves science, still asks a million questions about everything, but he doesn't record people anymore. He doesn't need to. "Mom," he said as I brought out his birthday cake, "remember when I was 7 and Grandma tried to poison me?" "Yes, baby, I remember." "That was really scary. But we won, didn't we? The good guys won." "Yeah," I said, lighting the candles on his T-Rex cake. "We did." As I watched him blow out his candles, surrounded by new friends in our new life, I thought about how sometimes the most dangerous predators look like grandmothers bearing gifts. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones capable of the greatest harm. But sometimes, just sometimes, a 7-year-old with a tablet and a brave heart can save his whole family. Sometimes the truth, even from the smallest voice, is more powerful than all the poison in the world. If this story touched your heart or reminded you to trust your instincts about the people in your life, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your comments mean everything to me, and I read every single one. And if you want to hear more true stories about families, survival, and the incredible strength of children, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Thank you for listening to my story.